Good evening, all, and thank you for attending this meeting on the 4th of December. First on the agenda is election of committee chair. Do we have any nominations?
Go on, Mike, you nominate me and then I'll pass over to you to do your paper.
I'll nominate Leader of the Council, Councillor Doug Pullen.
All in favour? Councillor Doug Pullen, I'll hand over the chairing of the meeting to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sinead. Thank you. Apologies for absence. I've got Simon Fletcher, but I suppose we don't have any of that. And then Stephen G. Any others? Nigel Harris. Yes. Well done. Thank you, Sinead. Any others? No. In which case, that's it. Thank you. Any declarations of interest at this point? No. Fantastic. As ever, if any arise during the meeting, please interrupt who's ever talking and raise it at the earliest possible opportunity. Item number 4 then is minutes of the previous meeting. And it's a good job we've got the minutes there because it was over a year ago. Was anybody there except me? I suppose I'll have to say, yeah, that's an exact replica of exactly what happened. Okay, no issues on those. In which case, let's move on to the item at number 5, which is the substantive item on the agenda tonight, which is the Joint Waste Committee structure. I know this has been some time in the making, and this is a joint paper. Councillor Wilcox, Councillor Jay, between yourselves. Don't know if one of you is gonna lead discussion on it, but I'll hand over to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilcox. So yes, thank you very much. Normally I'd be sat where Sinead is sat. It's this nice change to be able to present this report to you today. For those of you who weren't here at the meeting in November 2022, there was a request made to look at the structure of the Joint Waste Committee and any potential ways that could be improved. Governance have looked at this and consulted with the Council's legal team at South Staffs Legal, and the report before you today sets out the scope of reform available to you. So just to quickly take you through some of the key points in this report. As it says at 3.1, the Lichfield and Tamworth Waste Collection Services Joint Committee was established in 2010 for the purposes of Section 101 of the Local Government Act 1972. This allowed both councils to operate a shared service to achieve costs and savings by collaborating. At the last committee, it was felt that this particular committee was committing a lot of its resources towards operational matters, rather than conducting big picture, long-term horizon scanning work, getting bogged down in the details rather than looking at the big picture, as it were. And it was hoped that we could create an arrangement that allows for greater efficiencies with less time pressures on both members and officers. The Building Control Management Board was highlighted as a potential example of something we could try and emulate. Could the Joint Waste Committee function like that, was a question. The Joint Waste Committee has its own separate constitution, which is attached to Appendix A of the report. We examined this in consultation with South Staffs Legal, and I just want to draw out a couple of key points that we found. Crucially, the Joint Waste Service requires a joint committee. That's a statutory requirement. As long as there is a joint service, we need a Joint Waste Committee. That joint committee is akin to any other committees of the council, and therefore has to observe the usual rules for meetings, public access, 5 working days for deadlines, etc. Those rules apply as they would any other committee. The committee, however, can delegate decision-making functions to officers with the agreement of Cabinet at both authorities. Though, of course, we would highly recommend that any delegations are done in consultation with the service area. Ultimately, could there be, for example, a member-led committee meeting annually or every 6 months to conduct horizon scanning and those big picture questions, whilst an officer-led management board met more regularly to deal with operational matters? Yes, that is something that could be achieved, provided that the Joint Waste Constitution is amended to reflect those changes. As outlined in 3.6, it's for you as a committee to decide what kind of delegations or changes, if any, that is, of course, you'd like in consultation with officers, and then approve them before taking them to your respective cabinets. I think that covers most things, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer those.
Thank you. Thanks, Will, for the presentation. It's very good. Just a quick question. South Staff's legal, that's who you referred to, wasn't it? What was their view on Cabinet being able to approve it and not full council?
So in terms of who could approve changes, the advice we got was that Cabinet can approve any new arrangements for the committee. Whether Joint Waste Constitution will need to be changed will very much be led by the discussions between yourselves and officers. The kinds of changes that you want would reflect where those constitutional changes might need to happen. Both councils' constitutions would need to be changed. I think it mentions in 3.6 of the report, part 2 and part 3, to reflect any changes made. So whilst the Cabinet has the ability to approve changes to the Joint Waste Committee, any constitutional changes would need to go through council. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers it. And yeah, based on that, I'm happy with it. Thank you. Mark, you got any?
If we can free up some time so that officers can do the work behind the scenes and not be bogged down with having to do the tender meetings and all that sort of thing, and we can look at it more formally, I think that's probably the best way forward, so that the service can actually develop and sort of move forward.
Yeah, agreed. I think, Will, just from my perspective, I'd very much like us to move to perhaps an annual, so that the committee will still need to exist, right? But we can presumably do it on an annual basis, and then set it up at a point where can we build in and appreciate there's a bit of work that we're going to have to go away and do in terms of shaping it, but just in terms of how we might shape that, if we built in things like, I suppose that would reflect almost key decision limits. So we say, here's the ambition for the next 12 months. However, if something exceeds X amount of spend or affects, and forgive me because I've not thought exactly about how we might phrase this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if it has an impact greater than Y for a certain amount of residents. So we almost build in, just as we would with cabinet member decisions, just about how, just as a sort of a break to make sure that it could come back to us. And Mr. Barras.
Thank you, Chair. I think if it's useful for members, it perhaps be a good idea to approve an annual business plan, which can include all of that. That can give you the parameters, the financial anticipation, and the outputs, and also performance indicators of the service on an annual basis. Both Tamworth and Lichfield scrutiny committees review that, I believe, on a quarterly basis anyway, particularly with recycling performance. So I think the checks and balances are there to enable sort of that format to happen, and then a management board sitting beneath that almost does the day-to-day stuff. And I think the backdrop to all this is certainly in the next couple of years there's going to be vast changes in waste, in different ways potentially of working, food waste potentially coming on stream, different cost structures, different disposal methods. So I think it's very important that this committee is freed up to actually look at the bigger picture stuff in conjunction with with the rest of Staffordshire as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Andrew. Mike.
I think the one thing we would all wish to see, and that is a sort of a better and closer relationship between the two authorities in relation to the waste services and the scheme that we deliver, because I think probably, and it for various reasons, is probably, I think, drifted apart a bit, and I think we need to rebuild that, and we need to make sure we've got the relationship between, myself as a cabinet member and whoever the cabinet member in the future will be looking after waste. So I think that's really important for our residents, that we are doing things collectively and doing it as a proper joint service. So that's my only wish, that we build those relationships going forward, and we regularly keep in touch member-wise to make sure that everything is going the way we want it to go. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I think we'd second that. It's good. So we've got, sorry, Councillor Joe, is there anything else that you wanted to come in and see? We've got two recommendations in front of us this evening. 1 or 2.1 that we consider how we wish to define the desired changes and delegations for a new management board style arrangement. I think that's really a piece of work that we need to go away and do collectively away from this meeting, certainly, isn't it? And at 2.2, that if a new arrangement is agreed, that the outcome of those discussions be presented to our respective cabinets for approval, and that we'll therefore then have to amend the constitution as required. Just for some clarification on that, Will, if I may, where we talk about constitutional amendments, is that the joint waste constitution? It's not the actual constitution of the council that needs amending, is it?
This was the question that I thought you might ask, and is the question that I've been trying to look into. Absolutely, of course, the joint waste constitution would need to be amended. In terms of whether the full council constitution would need to be amended, that is something that I will double check and get back to you if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
The MO.
I think, unless Ms. Timms, you've got an immediate answer.
Well, it's just I'm quite familiar with the constitution, as members may appreciate. It does have a passing reference. I don't think it specifies frequency though. So as long as the committee still exists, I don't believe there is a material change to our constitution. I'd need to double check whether or not Tamworth actually specifies the frequency.
Thanks, Chris. I think Councillor Jay has got an observation to make on that.
Yeah, not to do the constitution, but just to do the recommendation. It's vague enough to cover that. So it says just constitutional amendments. It doesn't refer to the service or the council. So I think we're okay.
Thanks, Councillor Jay.
Chair, just to I say answer on the Tamworth constitution. We don't specifically reference the joint waste service. It's under joint committees and ability to use joint committees. So the main constitution wouldn't need to be changed, but because the joint waste constitution went to council initially, it would need to go to council for approval. Any amendments to that as good governance.
Understood. So I think the real ask there, whilst it says to their respective cabinets, what we're really saying is when it goes and gets discussed, do whatever it needs to do and send it wherever it needs to be sent to be formally approved, and we don't have to go through any more rounds of governance once we've done that. Okay, brilliant. All those in favour then, 2.1, 2.2. Yeah, that is unanimously passed. Thank you very much. Thank you, Will, and all of your team who've done some work on that over the previous months to get us into a better place. I don't think we should leave it a year until we meet again, though, to approve those changes. Do we have in January? Brilliant. Okay, so we will meet again in January with the understanding that we're going to approve those changes. We're going to have to move pretty quickly if we want to send that to Cabinet and full council. That doesn't feel like enough time. No. Let's find a date in the not too distant future. Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, and that concludes all the business for today. Thank you very much.